Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the third video in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Top 5 series. There's a link in the description to the Countdowns playlist where you can find the previous videos in this series where I go through my top 5 loved and hated characters and stages, as well as the top 5 lists I did for Smash Brawl and Wii U and other countdown videos. There are also links to my Twitter and Patreon pages. On this occasion, we are looking at final smashes in Smash Ultimate. There isn't really a set list of qualities I'll be going by, but if it's safe to say it's an entertaining watch and gets a reliable KO or two, then I'll probably like it. One thing that's different about this list is that with so many characters, there are some that have functionally identical final smashes, so I'm going to be putting some into groups. Any final smash where they get trapped on the spot, take a pummeling and then get launched, or are knocked into the air, take a pummeling and then get launched, are all being lumped together. I did consider making them two separate groups, but they do pretty much the same thing. Also, ones that are mainly used to push your opponent off the stage are also being lumped together, so two groups, pummelers and pushers. It was actually really difficult making this list because final smashes that are usually really bad seem to have been given an upgrade and made more effective, so even some of the ones that are on the hated list can still be pretty good. As with the previous videos, no DLC characters will be taken into consideration for this, just the ones that come with the main game. As always, this is purely my opinion, but feel free to tell me I'm wrong in the comments because your opinion is different, and with that, here we go. Samus's Zero Laser and Dark Samus's Photon Laser. I decided to put both these final smashes at number 5 as they are identical. It's been one of my favourites since final smashes were introduced in Brawl, and it's still great. I did think maybe it should be included in the pushers group, but this final smash causes a large knockback strike at the end. It can be slightly angled to catch anyone trying to get away, and it has amazing range. Granted, all you need to do is stand behind them and you'll get away scot-free, but it's still effective enough to be worth it, and with the rubble rushing past as well, it's never looked better. Jigglypuff's Puffup. It's actually not that bad, it's just not as good as most others. In previous games, Puffup was practically useless, but it's one of the ones that's had a slight upgrade. It seems as if the enemies don't have to be as close as they used to for the move to be effective, and the amount of knockback cores also seems to have been increased. Although Jigglypuff does puff up fairly large, it still might not be enough to be reliable on larger stages where your opponents can get away a bit easier, but with a bit of planning it can still be a fairly effective final smash. It's the pummels. As mentioned, this encompasses the types of final smashes where the opponent takes a beating on the spot before getting launched, like with Little Mac, DK and Young Link, as well as those where they get thrown into the air, take a beating and then get smacked down again, like Robin, Cloud and yes, Ike's great Aether. Some are easier to pull off than others. I always struggle getting Greninjas to connect, but once any of them do connect, it's so satisfying watching them get pummeled and sent flying. Back in Brawl and Smash Wii U, these final smash types had a few characters that did them, but in Smash Ultimate they're used a lot, and I did consider having this as the number 1 entry because they are really effective and some of them can trap multiple opponents, but I decided because it's final smash that's used so much, it's almost overused, I'd go for some of the more unique but effective final smashes for the higher positions. Even so, never underestimate a good pummeling. Ice Climbers Iceberg. Another staple bad final smash, but again, it's still bad, but it's not as bad as it used to be, seeing as this time the iceberg can be controlled to slide across the screen, so it's not so easy to get away from. Problem is, as you still control the ice climbers, you run the risk of accidentally walking off the stage. They can grab the condor at the top of the screen, but that's easier said than done. Just like with Puffup, the effectiveness is reduced on larger stages because the iceberg is always the same size, and at least with Puffup, you can choose where on the stage Jigglypuff puffs up. If someone does get hit, the knockback isn't too bad, so again, it's not really a terrible final smash, not anymore anyway, it's just not as useful as most of the others. King K. Rool's Blast-O-Matic. It made me laugh. Until recently, the only Donkey Kong Country game I'd played is Tropical Freeze, so when I first saw the final smash, I only had a vague idea what it was referencing, but I knew enough to get the gist and I had to giggle. Not only is it an entertaining watch, the initial strike from King K. Rool does damage and then the explosion does as well. It has a good amount of knockback and can affect multiple opponents. The range of the initial strike isn't too bad either, which all makes for a great final smash. Just a shame I'm not too keen on King K. Rool as a fighter. As a fighter. Bowser Jr.'s Shadow Mario Paint. Now we're getting into the ones I actually don't like. I've had this on a list before and it still leaves a lot to be desired. Shadow Mario paints an X on the screen which does damage to anyone in contact with it, and then it explodes, causing supposedly high knockback, but I usually find they don't get hit much from the paint, nor do they get hurt much by the explosion, so it's far too unreliable for my liking. With Jigglypuff, you position where she puffs up. The Iceberg you can move side to side, so if they miss, it's partly down to you, but Shadow Mario paint seems to be more luck than anything else. King Dedede's DD Rush. Another character I'm not exactly keen on, but I prefer King Dedede over King K. Rool, and King Dedede's final smash actually made me go, "Oh, that's gotta hurt," the first time I saw it. The damage it can do is pretty high, it has a good amount of knockback, and I love the final hammer smack at the end. It's a shame it can only affect one person, but I tend to stick to one-on-one battles anyway, especially online, so having a high damage, high knockback final smash against a single enemy is fine by me. Sonic's Supersonic. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but it sucks. I wasn't much of a fan of Supersonic in previous Smash games because he was so difficult to control, but now you have very little control and look at it, it's so easy to avoid. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it seems as though the position he flies across the stage was really badly set because all his opponents need to do is crouch and they'll pretty much get away scot-free. Other characters have similar final smashes like Diddy Kong, but at least he covers a wider area of the stage, so it's harder to avoid, but he also homes in on someone and explodes at the end. You get none of that with Supersonic, and it's just terrible. Before checking out my most loved final smash, here are some honourable mentions.
Watch this. Black hole and mega laser.
Incineroar's Max Malicious Moonsault. I'll be honest, I originally wanted to have this as my number one choice, mainly because I love what happens, especially the large explosion at the end, which essentially burns hundreds of spectators to death every time it's used, but it's still a rather effective final smash. Just like with King Dedede's final smash, it's got some decent damage and has a fair amount of knockback, which is great for one-on-one battles, seeing as it can only affect one opponent. Others in the area will take some damage and knockback from the final blast, so it may not KO them, but at least it'll get them away from you while the poor sucker taking the full effect is then hurtling across the horizon. These aren't bad final smashes by any means, but here are some dishonourable mentions. Peach and Daisy's Blossoms. Hear me out on this one, I have legitimate reasons for putting these at number 1. In theory, they're fine. Put your opponents to sleep and spawn a load of healing items. Fine. The problem I have is the sleep effect doesn't last long for healthy opponents, so it's really easy for Peach and Daisy's final smash to work against them and end up healing your opponents because they woke up quickly and got to the healing item before you did. At least with Supersonic and Shadow Mario Paint, they may not be hugely effective, but at least they won't end up being beneficial to your opponents. I had Peach Blossom in a previous video and I mentioned healing is only useful if you actually need healing, so sure, if you don't need healing, you can take advantage of your opponents being asleep and smack them one, but that wakes them up, allowing them to go for the healing items. It's an absolute bunch of crap. And there we go, another entry sorted. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what your top 5 loved and hated final smashes are. Up next will be the top 5 loved and hated items, so until then, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it and see you next time.